Okay, to the chat.
Nobody email Michael. Sorry. Okay. I haven't even seen your new avatar, Caroline.
Thanks. I like yours too. Hi there, everybody. I know it's awfully quiet in here. Feel free to
myself so that the people in Verbella can hear that I'm talking to all the folks in the world here. In the physical room, you can see the people in Verbella. You see how they have a camera screen on the left side over there? They can see you as well. So this is a simulcast event. It is happening live and virtual simultaneously at the same time. When we do start the actual event at 6:15, we'll go over a little bit more of this again. But we will have presenters who are in the virtual space. We will have presenters here in the physical space. We will have audience in the virtual space, audience in the physical space. We're also streaming this live. And the reason I'm making this announcement right now is to let everybody know who is in the room. This is streaming on the internet. So there is recording taking place. You have the ability that you might be on camera, just letting everybody know. There are cameras obviously pointing into the room. That's it. We'll get the official stage presentation started at 6:15, letting you all know. Streaming has begun. Thank you. Welcome. We'll get going in a few minutes. Caroline, I'm going to mute you in the room again.
That's fine. Thank you. So we're muted here in the room at this point, everybody. Welcome, everybody. And we're really excited to have you here tonight. And this will be just a few minutes where we'll be getting everything ready to go. As you heard from Matt, they are gathering at 1871 in downtown Chicago, and that screen that you see there is the projection of the room. So we're really excited, and feel free to sit with one another. I can put the privacy rings onto the tables so that you can speak amongst yourselves, and that gives you some ability so you don't have any crosstalk. But I encourage you to introduce yourselves to each other, and excited to get started.
Very exciting. Hi there.
Hello, Jenna. Welcome.
Hello. Yes. Oh, so happy to have it to be here. This is gonna be exciting.
100%. Come on up. Come on up.
Great. Do I come up and hang out on the stage with you?
Yes.
Ooh,
in fact,
nice.
The way we will do this is that you can sit at one of the chairs on either side, and then during your presentation, we actually have you stay there, because one of the things I think you might have, well, I don't remember if Tom explained, but we're going to have,
he did, yeah.
Yeah, the ability to have that zoom in for that screenshot, so that way we can see a closer look of your face. So your avatar, I should say. Yeah. So if you want to go behind you just real quick and click on the screen there and do a favorite of that one, and then also just test out your camera if that's still cool for you to do that.
Let's test that out. I'm on a different computer now, so it's definitely good to test.
There you go.
Yeah. Oh man. Unfortunately, I'm in my but it works. It works. I'm here. You can see my there we go. Yeah. You can see this is my idea board that that's got a lot of cool ideas on it. They're all secrets, but yeah, we'll share it today. Great. Awesome. Yeah, just so you guys know, I just walked in from a long day of travel, so I think I'm gonna have to put my some things away first.
Okay, no problem. All right, well, glad we know it works. That's excellent.
Excellent.
Hi, Michael. come on back up if you,
That looks like a decent shot, right? Because you're not going to need to see anything on the right-hand side of the slide. And that's the only... yeah,
hey, Tom.
because that's where the video is going to be. Oh, sorry. Yeah, my audio is coming in here.
Yep.
Yeah, we don't have those zooms in at the moment, but we
Oh,
are
okay.
the shot. So Caroline, if you
Yep.
want to kind of figure out where your permanent location is going to be, if you want to
Sure.
kind of stand to... it would be your left, but it would be your avatar left, just to the kind of between the two screens / just next to the chair towards the center.
Okay. On the side that I'm standing right here?
Yeah,
If you can see me? Okay.
Yeah, so a little bit straight ahead, like there. That's great. And then kind of angle out in parallel to the chairs. And yeah, so that'll be a great spot. And that's just going to be our view. I can take a photo of it and text you what it looks like, but that's what we'll
Sure.
go with today.
And then we'll have our guests stand here as well when they're speaking.
Okay.
I can't hear you over Matt at the moment.
All right, Caroline, I'm gonna go ahead and take a seat, okay?
Sure.
Okay, so we're good on those angles. Caroline, what had you asked? What was the last question?
I said, so we'll bring our guests up and have them stand here while they're presenting.
No, they'll stay
Oh,
seated.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
All right, I'm going off comms again.
Hey, Michael.
Which screen you mean? The one in the middle?
No, the one right here onto the
Okay.
left-hand side. Yep. Be able to just click on the actually thing with your mouse and then click on that star. Do you get an error still?
No, not an error. I can zoom in, refresh the screen. Cannot click it directly. You can zoom into a screen.
Yeah, that's okay. And then that's okay. Now, if you click on the star, put that little star button, it'll open up a tab for you on your presentation tool to the right. It'll open up a separate tab, and that will be the place that you can go when you're ready to be speaking, and then you'll click on that little camera icon. Oh, did you click the middle screen?
No, I haven't.
Oh, okay, that must be them. Okay, that's okay. So it sounds like you are able to click the screen over here above the chairs, and so just do that and then click that star. If you see that on in your presentation tool.
No, I don't see it. I have closed the presentation tool, I think. Just let me figure it out.
Oh, if you go off of the stage and go back on, it should populate it again.
Okay. I see it. Oh, there's the button, yeah.
Yep.
Slides, okay.
So, yep. Now, I don't know if that was you or it could have been.
Cool, that's our website. Nice.
They must be changing the slides. That's okay. We'll let him do this because right now you don't want to favorite this because it'll, yeah, I think that'll, let me just find out where Tom is with it. You're not selecting those things, are you, Michael?
I am. No, I am.
Oh, okay. So you don't need to play the video from here. So you don't even need to do anything from here. He's going to run the slides in the master deck. So actually, yeah. So actually, we want to have the other splash screen that you first saw, and it might need to be, it might need to have Tom come back and put it back up there, which is fine. There we go. Great. Tom. Okay. So now, Michael, if you just take your mouse, click on that screen physically, just once. And
I do.
Go ahead.
But nothing happens when I click here.
Can you hear me in Bravella?
Yes, we can. I'm still trying to get the camera working for Michael.
One is a push to talk.
Did that work, Michael?
When I click the screen, nothing happens.
Right, and that's okay. So did you click at the presentation tool on the right corner? Do you see that one? And if you see that star right beside that,
Oh yeah, I see it, yeah.
and now click that and it should open up. You'll see another tab open up right at the top of that presentation tool.
That's, yeah, the next evolution of patient-driven health.
Yes, and now, now go ahead and click on the icon that's two over that looks like a video cam. Now click on that. And what that should do is ask you if you want to open your webcam up. And you click OK, and it'll just give you a shot of your camera, your face, your computer.
Huh?
Did that work? Or it doesn't look like it worked, huh?
I'm trying. Just a second.
I'm in multiple places at once. What's up?
Oh,
What work?
You talking to me, Caroline?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, so I'm just explaining the camera feature for Michael, and he's gone ahead and selected that. It seems like he favorited it, but I maybe is your camera not initializing or something, Michael?
No, no, it is. The problem is I have clicked on the 3 bars on the burger menu next to the camera, and now
Oh,
open file.
yeah, we
pops
don't want to
open, and
do
I cannot
that.
close it. You know?
Oh, I see. You can't close it. I see.
Yeah. I
Okay.
think I have to relaunch. Just give me 1 minute.
Okay.
Definitely, this audio device is not like going into Rebella. Now you can. How about now? There we go. All right, let's hope it stays working this time. Okay, so welcome everybody. Sorry about the minor technical delays that seem to come about. I would like to welcome everybody to the Next Evolution AWE Night Chicago. Hopefully the stream is going okay too. I haven't checked that myself. Maybe Tom will check in a few minutes. We'll find out. But real quick, welcome. I want to talk about this event. For real quick show of hands, who's been here before to one of these events? Who has not been? Wow. A lot of new people this time.
Hey.
Great. Thanks. Welcome.
Oh,
We're
Let's
just
actually
getting
have the right
started.
thing showing. So let me get control of my slides here. Now I'm wondering why my slides don't have my slides. Give me a second here. All right, folks. Lovely glitches today. This is fun. All right. Hopefully we're seeing that. Are we seeing that on the center screen for Bella? I can't watch it at the moment. All right. Awesome. So once again, welcome. Sorry, we're having all sorts of fun technical difficulties today. This makes it wonderful. But this is the Next Evolution. This is an event that's been going on, believe it or not, for approaching 6 years at this point, 2017 March. Yeah, so we're actually at the 6-year point. This event is free. It has always been free. It always will be free. The main point of this event, just for all of you who raised your hand a few minutes ago, is you. We want you guys to be able to get your questions answered. So there's going to be presenters up here. They're going to be presenting their topic, but ultimately they're going to be giving a very brief introduction of who they are, what they do, so that they can answer your questions. That's the whole point of them being here. We do pick an industry topic every single month. We change it monthly. And the other thing I want to point out really quickly is that this is a volunteer-run event. So most people that you see doing stuff, Patrick over there, Matt at the front desk, it's all free. This is actually, the Next Evolution is in fact a 501c3 charitable organization because we offer free educational programming. That's what we do. But with that, I will let you know that we are going to have presenters. Again, these are our expert panel members who are going to be here today talking about patient-driven health and immersive technology. We'll get to them again in a few moments, but there are a lot of people that we work with to make this all happen. So one of the groups that I do have to point out is AWE, Augmented World Expo. This is also the Next Evolution AWE Night Chicago. There are several AWE nights, in fact, 32 E-nights that take place all over the world. AWE is, sorry, I got to read my notes here. They also have the AWE Live community, which is essentially, I almost want to say it's like a giant social community for people who are working in XR technology. So if you're not involved with it and you're interested in this technology, good group to get involved with. Wow, I got a whole lot of notes from them. AWE is in fact a live event that takes place in Santa Clara, California, sorry. It'll be taking place this year. I'll give you the dates on the next slide, but there is a discount code that we have here. These slides will be made available following the event, so if you want to look stuff up, you don't have to worry about taking pictures now, but you can. It's fine. We don't mind. It's also streaming, and this is recorded, so it'll be showing up again there. But these slides will be available on the VRAR Chicago website from now into the future. There is a discount for people who want to go to AWE. There are 3 main AWE events that take place live: AWE USA, which is May 31st to June 2nd in Santa Clara, Asia, and EU. And of course, there's always the AWE community. And they also have a bunch of upcoming events on AWE Live and the AWE Academy. I also want to point out there's this organization called VRAR Chicago. You saw Matt up front at the table. He had that lovely tablecloth. We've got some information back here at this table. VRAR Chicago is the organization that essentially produces this event and frankly helps other people do things like this. As you can imagine, there's a whole lot of technology that goes into hosting of an event, both live and virtual and live streamed at the same time. A lot of technology that goes in front of it. You'll see Tom hiding behind the pillar from where I can see right now, but he's got a long history in event production. We do technology consulting. Again, VRAR Chicago will do anything related to helping this type of technology run. Again, I did mention the Next Evolution is a 501c3 charitable program. We would love donations or sponsorship. We'll talk about that later. If anyone has any interest in that, please just see me. We'll put a link up here eventually. But I do have someone in the room from 1871 who's actually going to intro 1871 this time. So I will let her come up and introduce 1871 because I would not do it justice.
Hey all, thanks so much. I'm Lydia, I'm with 1871. I'm the events manager here. And just for a little background, if you're not familiar with us, if you're not familiar with what we do, we are a nonprofit startup incubator and innovation hub. So we support the full maturity curve. We're gonna support the early stage, the growth stage, and the corporate innovators. And we do that in a variety of ways. So we have programming, we have membership options, and we have events, my favorite. We have some very exciting events coming up. So if you're interested, they are not just for our members, they're also open to the public. This 420, we will be celebrating by having a Cannabis Innovation Summit. If you're interested, if that piques your interest, check it out on our website, 1871.com. And then later in May, we're also going to have a conference called Scale Up. So if you want to hear from some industry leaders on scaling up your business, on learning a little bit more, that's also something you could tap into. So thanks again, and check us out, 1871.com.
Thank you very much. It's always great to actually have someone from 1871 introduce 1871 because, again, I don't do it well. But with that, as we mentioned before, we have this virtual space that you guys are about to see right there. And Caroline is going to handle introducing the virtual space and herself as well. Caroline, I don't know if are we starting with you? I'm completely lost in my notes right now. And I think
No
that
problem.
actually Bella. Can you hear me, Caroline?
Yes. I can. There's an
Excellent.
echo, though.
I will mute myself momentarily. Here you go.
Welcome everyone tonight. I'm really excited to be here joining Matt Wren, and as you can tell from the way that we have executed this event is it's really one of a kind, and with that and with working with technology, there's all kinds of challenges, and so I'm thrilled to be here. This particular event is one that's very special to my heart, just because I've spent a good portion of my life dedicated to healthcare medicine, healthcare equity. But just to give you a little idea of who I am, I have been working across higher education, entrepreneurship, healthcare and medicine, and business for over about 3 decades. I currently run a consulting practice called 2 Degrees. And what 2 Degrees does is it helps startup founders and organizations grow and scale to build market share and build context around adjacent industries. This work is leveraged just by, as I said, my deep interest in everything from cybersecurity and blockchain and AI and precision medicine. So what I'd like to do next here is to just give everyone here in Virbela an idea of the things to be aware of, because for many it's a new platform. So on the middle screen here, you'll see, and if you can advance the slide there, Tom. Thank you. And I apologize. Let me pop my camera on. Oh. Okay. Sorry, I was going to turn my camera on, but I see the other screen there. Okay, so a little bit about Virbela. This is a pretty awesome platform. I come here to another one called iLearn, which sits on the Virbela platform. And the things that you want to be looking for is you see those, be aware that there are different screen zooms. So at the top of your screen, you'll see that there are 4 or 5 blocks, and the first one says screen zoom. This is really helpful because you can actually hover your mouse up there, and there are 3 boxes, and that will zoom into the screen that you're interested in looking at that. So that's helpful when people are moving through slides. Also, just be aware that right now we do not have those blue circles, but you can actually create the private volumes on those. So that means that everyone in the room can hear your conversation. And we also ask that you mute when you're not speaking. To the left, if you see the Virbela Open Campus, there are all the people that are here attending. And it also enables you down in the corner bottom to mute your microphone, of course, that green microphone, as well as send either a public chat, and you'll see that public, or you can also send private chats. And we definitely encourage you to post your questions and to connect with each other, because it's a great opportunity to learn from each other and have some time to get to know one another. And let's see. Other than that, I think we can turn it back to you, Matt.
Actually, is Sarah in the room? Did she want to introduce Virbela as a sponsor?
Oh, I forgot that. I apologize.
Let's say a quick hello. Thank you, everybody. Hi, I'm Sarah Segrist. I am the VIP of community here on the Virbela Open Campus, which just means that we help support the community here, which includes all of the fine folks here today, looking at some new faces and new friends. So everyone is welcome. We're here for the future of education, the future of work, and virtual community building, including learning about the great topics we'll hear today. So thank you very much for being here.
Thank you, Sarah. And Caroline, before you toss it back to me, do you want to introduce XR Women?
I do. So XR Women is a collective of over 700 women from around the globe, all really dedicated to mentoring, sharing and learning and connecting with women interested in the whole area within XR. We have an incredible breadth of expertise in our community. We are actually supported and sponsored by the Immersive Research Learning Network, Frame.io, as well as Virbela. We have had over 200 events over the course of 2 years, and we hold a meeting every single week on iLearn. And we also have an incredible virtual museum on frame.io that you can visit. And actually our wonderful speaker, Jenna Lambert, has been the spearheading of that design. So it's an incredible community, and I encourage everyone to tune in. And we are also going to be at AWE, and we'll be presenting the XR Women Awards as well. So we're so appreciative, and I'm excited to be a part of their leadership team as well. Okay, Matt.
All right, thanks. In a moment, we'll be through all the partners, but there are a lot of people that make this come together, a lot of people that make it work. Venity, we'll talk about a little bit more in just a moment. You see that they have a table over here in the physical space. 2degrees.io, that's Caroline's group, Independent Game Developers Association of Chicago, 2112, which is Chicago's creative technology incubator, NVZN. Ron is not here today. He's actually, I believe, observing Passover at the moment. And VR motion learning. So a lot of groups that work together to help promote this event, bring it together, get us some speakers, get us some cross promotion. And I did mention that there's this group called Venity. So one of the things that is tied in with these events, this is something new that we're doing this year. Venity is an NFT. So you see this QR code that you have up here on the screen right now. For those of you in Verbella, feel free to point your phone at that screen. It will work. We also have a couple of printed versions in the tables in the physical space. This is an NFT that you will only ever be able to collect tonight during this event. If you try tomorrow or next week on the live stream even, it will be shut off. You can't collect it. This is basically something that we are doing to verify who actually comes to these events, because everybody who comes to one of these events live is entered to win, we'll say probably a VR headset. We're not entirely sure what the drawing is going to be for at the end of the year, but the only way that you get entered to win is by collecting the NFTs. So I'll leave the QR code up here. It'll be up again at the end of the event. And again, it's throughout the physical space. I believe we have an image of it in the virtual space. It'll be back. But this is through Venity, who's one of our partners as well. All right, with that, let's get to the actual purpose of this event, which is for our presenters to be able to present who they are, what they do, and beyond that, ultimately, like I said, they're going to come up here. They're going to very briefly talk about who they are and what they do. We're going to have a little bit of a conversation, a Q&A between me and them. And then it's going to be to our audience to be able to actually, once every speaker is done, we'll bring them all back up, and the audience is going to be the group who gets to ask all the questions. So be preparing your questions, because you'll have a microphone so that the people in the virtual space can hear you, or the people in the virtual space will raise their hand. We actually also have Tom monitoring the live stream so we can get questions in off the live stream. But with that, our first presenter is Jay. I'm going to let him actually come up here and grab one of the microphones. And you'll just tell me when you want me to change slides.
My name is Jay Banerjee. I'm the president and co-founder of Immersive Touch. We're a Chicago-based company headquartered in the West Loop. I founded it in 2014. And so the company is a surgeon-driven VR, AR solution, and its main purpose is to provide key insights that drive clinical decision-making, which is increasingly important. Next slide, please. Because the challenges that we're facing globally related to preventable medical errors is sizable. $36 billion are being spent on preventable medical errors, 400,000 deaths in the US alone. And going beyond that, what Immersive Touch is focusing on is trauma. So trauma surgeries have unique challenges because it's hard to plan for them. Trauma surgery, every one of them is extremely unique. Can't really predict it. And therefore, because planning is so cumbersome today, many times it takes over 3 hours to work on various CAD software. And so surgeons don't have the time for that. So a lot of times surgeons just go in and plan without planning, go in and just open the patient up and figure it out. And that's highly inefficient, and it could lead to complications. In fact, 50% of trauma lawsuits are related to lack of preparation and a failure for diagnosis. So that's where our first solution in the market is being utilized in over 20 hospitals. And so on the next slide, you can go into the mission of the company, which is ultimately to improve patient outcomes, reduce complications, accelerate training and proficiencies, and eliminate variability. So how we're using AR and VR, you might be wondering how that fits in, right? So first, we have an AI solution that converts CT and MRI scans of the patient. So once the patient comes in, They get scanned, then our system then creates a 3D virtual avatar, a digital twin of that patient. So now the surgeon pops in the headset, they're able to immerse themselves in the patient's anatomy, understand the anatomy inside out, 3D measurements, reduce the fractures, complex fractures. And so as you see on the left, this lady is planning a brain tumor case with a craniotomy. In the middle, we also have an ability to export these models and print them on a 3D printer. So what happens is we print these models out and then we bend the plates that we're going to place on the patient. The reason we do that is then we save operating room time. We don't experiment during the operating room, so the patient is not being exposed to unnecessary air and infections and stuff. We just go in and place the plate. And on the right side is our augmented reality solution, which is pending FDA clearance. And what augmented reality allows us to do is view virtual holograms, 3D holograms in the operating theater. This allows the surgeon to not be blocked from a VR headset. They're able to see the patient and see 3D anatomy and see all the information in front of them during the surgery itself. Slide. Going back to trauma, how are we improving trauma surgeries? So trauma, a lot of times surgeons don't have time to plan it. So our solution is 35 times faster than traditional methods. And the traditional method, the surgeons aren't even doing most of the time they're not even doing it. But if we're introducing a solution that can do it within 15 minutes, can diagnose the patient, they can understand the patient's anatomy inside out, then our surgeons are doing it. And they're noticing better results, more accurate results. In fact, we've published a paper recently which showed that whatever you plan in our VR system is what you're going to get during the surgery. So the reflection of planning in operation has been measured. And so here we have a workflow where the patient gets scanned, you plan the surgery, and then print the model, and then go in the operating theater. Slide. We're the first FDA-cleared VR solution for surgical planning. So our measurements are accurate, our models are accurate. So whatever you're getting in that VR model, which I encourage you to try, there's a demonstration here. We have hundreds of patients, all anonymized. There's no patient data or anything, but you're able to see how a virtual patient would look like one-to-one. So it's what you would expect to see from the CT scan. No. And then in the pipeline, what we're really excited about is machine learning and AI. And so all this data, all this planning that the surgeon is doing in VR is valuable, because now we can educate the future of surgeons that come in, and now we can have an intelligence platform that has recorded all the surgeons in the world and how they plan a case, how they're actually approaching a case in VR. So then now future residents, future medical students will now have all the intelligence at their fingertips. So education and training will be accelerated significantly. Slide. And lastly, we've studied this technology extensively at academic medical centers all across the country. We've noticed significant benefits to the patient and to the hospital. And that's the topic of today's patient-driven health, and that's why I'm excited to be here today. Thank you.
All right. You don't get to go away yet. No, I got a couple questions for you first. Oh, yeah. Yeah. This is the fun part, because again, you've talked a lot about your technology and what it does, and you've spoken a little bit about what you guys do and your goals, but we want to learn a little bit about you. So my question is, how did you get started in this? What brought you to immersive technology? From where were you before this? How did you get to using immersive technology?
Great question. So I had the privilege of growing up in an academic household, and my dad was an early researcher in augmented and virtual reality at the University of Illinois, Chicago. And so I grew up exposed to this technology. We had a cave when I was a kid. I went into the cave, which is like this massive room, which is all virtual. And I was playing a shooting game for the army that they're developing. So I got really excited about it early on. I was excited about movies that had, virtual, computer graphics. And then eventually I studied engineering in Urbana-Champaign and went into banking for a couple of years, realized that although I love finance, I wanted to build a company. And so I went back to my roots and I wanted to help my dad build Immersive Touch. So we partnered together in 2014 and so we're working together.
Now, I was going to go with a different question, but just because you brought up the whole financing background. So if you had an unlimited budget, what would be your wish list for kind of new functionality? What would be the next thing you'd want to research that would be, the game changer if you didn't have to worry so much about time or budget?
So I would want to research headsets and augmented reality and figure out field of view and some of these challenges that we're facing with augmented reality. I would want to research AI and figure out how we can integrate blockchain, AI, and augmented and VR all into one platform, which is going to happen, no doubt about it. And we're sitting at that intersection as a company. But if I had an unlimited budget, we would begin that process a lot sooner because there's a lot to be done there. But what ARVR is doing is it's helping bridge the virtual world with the real world in a much more intuitive format.
Thank you very much. We'll bring you back up for their questions as well as their questions in just a moment. Thanks. All right, so that was Jay Banerjee from Immersive Touch. Up next, we have Jenna Lambert from Lighthouse, and she's in the virtual space. So,
Yes. And Matt, I'm gonna
go ahead, Caroline. I'm going to shut up and you can intro her.
Sure. I just want to take a minute here to just kind of bring it back on, and I really appreciated the way that Jay kind of unpacked the why behind how they are able to do what they do. I just wanted also just for everybody to realize that everyone is a patient, and I know that the word patient-driven health might seem a little bit new to some. I know that the healthcare industry has spent a long time focusing on patient-centered health versus patient-driven health. And so I'd love for Jenna, for you to go ahead and introduce yourself, and let's be thinking about that. And Jenna, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself first, and then we'll ask you a couple of questions afterwards.
Great, I will do that. Should I share my screen or is that for later? Okay, I will go ahead and present then. Hi, I'm Jenna Lambert. I am the Director of Content for Lighthouse XR. I am also pardon me. I am also the Director of Photography for my sister company called VRtisans, and one of the organizers of XR Women with Caroline Dennis on the leadership team there. At Lighthouse XR, as the Director of Content, a really great way to think about what I do is I bring together the doctors, researchers, clinicians that are working on projects in hospitals or academic studies, and I find the creative ways to bring them together with individuals that are more from the creative field, programming or film and development, and we combine those two things to create new mental health content. We have a platform right now in Lighthouse XR that creates educational and therapeutic XR experiences for mental health. We currently have some papers that are going to be coming out very soon. So it'll be a feasibility approved evidence-based program of 10 sessions. Our current topic is something that's really, really near and dear to us. It is substance abuse or substance misuse therapy. We found that there is a huge need with patients and providers as they almost run out of hours in the day to treat their patients or to teach their patients in some of these more health-related topics.
And Jenna, sorry to interrupt you, but we would
Sure.
love to see you on camera if you don't mind clicking that camera icon up on
Sure.
that screen, as well as just let Tom know when you want him to advance the slide.
Great.
And thanks everybody for your patience as we navigate all of these different tools and technologies.
Yes, yes, very much so. Yeah, so with our Lighthouse XR platform, we call it the Retreat. What we have is something that's super special to us. You can see, somebody that's a wolf there, or playing with a wolf. We build not only Unity-based programmed environments, but we come from a background of 20 years working in Hollywood. For me, I've been a 360 videographer and director of photography for over 5 years. I was playing with some of the first 360 cameras when they first started commercially coming out. So yeah, we're huge collaborators with these programs. We also, again, have our own platform called The Retreat that focuses specifically on substance abuse therapy. It's actually really interesting. I think earlier, Jay, you were saying that you built the company with your father. I also, both Lighthouse XR and ARVR were built with my father and started with my father, again, because of our passion for finding, using our skills to find solutions for specifically substance misuse therapy or substance abuse and fighting addiction in the ways that we best can. One of the things that I think is really special about our company, that I think, Caroline, thank you so much for inviting us today, is that, you can go to the next slide, please. So when we think of patient-centered design, I go back to a lot of what the use case is for small businesses and companies, which is user-centered design. Everything that we build, we build with the patient first, and I think that needs to be, you can't harp on that enough, or I can't emphasize that enough, is that our entire business model is built around specifically the needs of the doctors and the patients when we're designing these things. We don't go, this isn't, I guess when we're building these experiences and we're working with the doctors and we're working with the therapists, we are looking for success on both ends. We're looking for patient satisfaction, and we're looking for clinician, doctor, peer specialist satisfaction as they're building this. Because one of the things that we've noticed is that sometimes when one need gets met from one end, the other end doesn't get the satisfaction or the value that maybe they could have gotten. So that's what we do at Lighthouse XR.
Thank you so much, Jenna. And I know that we've talked about this before in the past a little bit, but can you give us a little bit of an idea of why you chose the implementation that you have done with Lighthouse in the work that you're doing in healthcare, and what led you to that decision? Because I know that you've been involved in the therapeutic side of things and all kinds of different modalities. Can you just share a little bit about your thought process, and also for the company, as obviously for your co-founders and team?
Sure. Yeah, so we started Lighthouse XR, which is currently actually going through rebranding. We were previously ARVR, so you may see that on some of our previous content, and in the papers that are coming out, ARVR may be the company that is being mentioned. I like to go ahead and let people know that. We began the company because we saw a huge need for this in the substance abuse community. We have a, one of the reasons that this is a family-run company is that we have a personal connection to substance abuse, and we've seen firsthand how difficult the journey can be for individuals. And I'm sure that, especially in America, substance abuse and addiction, of alcohol, of opioids, of any substances, it touches everybody. And we saw a way to use our skills and what we know we do best to do good, and to create something, and to work with companies and individuals that we truly believed in, to give their platforms or their teaching modalities or their clinical modalities a better use case than what is currently being taught. We were so lucky to find at the Veterans Health Administration a lovely doctor that we're working with, Dr. Jared Reisweber, and his TST program to partner with. And again, this isn't, we're looking for at Concio and Lighthouse companies that we truly believe in, with programs that we really believe will succeed. One of the reasons that we chose virtual reality is because that's what we know, that's what we understand. And we also believe that virtual reality, which has already so many use cases for relaxation and for distraction therapy and for learning and education, could also be used to educate and to ground individuals going through substance abuse therapy in a way that perhaps these group therapies or these individual therapies or the or some of the homework that these individuals get in their 30 days of treatment or 60 days of treatment would not normally get. And again, we're getting preliminary papers back that are saying this is great, the patients love it. Certain patients have said they would have quit if they would have quit the program if it wasn't for the VR that they do with us. And so that's been really, really wonderful to hear, and really just touching feedback as we continue to hear this from people.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. Well, thank you so much, Jenna. I'm going to turn it back to you now, Matt, and we'll get to our next guest.
Okay, and the audio actually worked. I'm actually having to check now every time that I do this to make sure that the audio is going to work correctly. So our next guest is Dr. Kanksha. I'm going to get it right. Srivastava? I have that right? All right, see, look at this. I practice. I'll say, oddly enough, so the funny part about this is I actually had an intern about 4 or 5 years ago that had the same last name, although I don't think you guys are related. So that one I knew how to pronounce, but your first name I was questioning. But with that, I will let you just take it away.
Thank you. Hi, good evening, everyone. Is this the best place to stand? All right. Great. Hi, everyone. Everyone joining us virtually as well. I'm a maxillofacial prosthetist. Has anybody heard that term before? Yes, fantastic, fantastic. We're a very rare breed. We're less than 50 of us throughout the country. So if you've not heard it, I'm happy. That means you or your loved ones have not needed that kind of care, right? So I'm just going to quickly walk you guys through what is it that we do as maxillofacial prosthetonists, and then how do we use VR and AR, all right? Go to the next one. I work here in Chicago at UI Health Craniofacial Center. Craniofacial Center, you can go to the next slide. So Craniofacial, this is our team. It's a small but still pretty large team for craniofacial centers. It's a center that is entirely dedicated to comprehensively caring for kids, newborns, all the way to the end of life. That's adults who are born with any kind of congenital deformities or any kind of acquired conditions of this area of your body. Okay, Matt, next, please. Thank you. I have no conflicts with respect to this presentation where we have to absolutely mention that. Let's go to the next one as well. Just to be able to talk more about what we do, I do have several photographs of patients with their full faces absolutely uncovered. So I'm going to please request you even those people who are watching it live at a later date, do not reproduce any of those images because that carries a huge medical legal liability. All righty. All right, so this is what we're talking about, congenital defects, right? Cleft lip and palate, all sorts of mild to severe syndromes with kids who just have absolutely no normal head and neck facial structure or anything like within their mouth that they, basically lack what we, function with. All right, next, please. Right, acquired deformities, and most commonly will be cancers, right? Where you can be losing half a part of your jaw, entire part of your jaw, some part of your facial structures, or things just within your mouth. Next, please, Matt. Trauma in Chicago, especially gunshot wounds, that's what you're seeing on the left side. A patient on the right side in a skydiving accident, the parachute did not open, fell face flat onto the ground from a very, broke a lot of bones. So this is what we usually see in terms of our patient pool, rehabilitating them back to some sense of normalcy. And when we're talking about function, when we're talking about quality of life, that's what we do. Drug abuse, that's also very common. Cocaine abuse will cause a lot of deformities. And this is a patient you're seeing who lost his eyesight, his hearing, his entire right side of his upper jaw because of cocaine abuse. So regardless of what the condition is and what we're treating, one thing that's very common is our patients present with very complex reconstruction needs, right? This is where VR and AR really fit in. And their needs are changing through the life. It's not like, you broke a bone, you went, put a cast on, and you're done with. Most of these patients have lifelong rehabilitation needs, right? Next, please. That is a video.
I've been a patient here for about 20 years.
They've been with me since I was born.
I've been coming here since I was born. Well, I am almost 30 years old. I have been coming to the UIC Craniofacial Center since probably my teenage years. It's a very long time.
So I'm sure you can appreciate that rehabilitation for anybody with a congenital or an acquired defect requires quite a lot of, expertise. And it's not just me. We are a huge group of plastic surgeons, maxillofacial prosthodontists, orthodontists, head and neck surgeons, ENT surgeons, speech pathologists, audiologists, pediatricians, pediatric dentists, and I'm probably missing a lot of people. And this is lifelong care for these patients. So when we're talking about any kind of surgical reconstruction, as you can understand, we at minimum have 2 teams or 3 teams, sometimes the plastic surgeons and the maxillofacial prosthetic surgical team, sometimes ENT, plastic surgeons, and maxillofacial prosthetic surgical teams that are in the OR or are planning some sort of a case, that is about to go into the OR. And that's where VR has been so phenomenal for us. We have been using, all medical professionals have been at the frontier of using CAD/CAM technologies, I want to say for more than 2.5 decades, right? And as Jay was saying, what VR brings to our lives is some sort of intuitive planning. We've become so used to 2-dimensional CAD/CAM planning, like looking at a CT scan or an MRI, right? It used to be like printed sheets of paper that went on a light box that we had to then read, right? That's not intuitive. Same thing with a CT scan. You're just scrolling through the screen to see different slices. That's not intuitive, right? For a new doctor in training now, for them to have the capabilities of VR and be actually able to visualize what you would inside a patient during the surgery is what is so phenomenal about VR technologies. Yeah.
And finally, that of the fibula, including the number of fibula segments, buccolingual,
so this is actually a planning for a kid who's missing his left upper jaw, right? And what you just saw happen in virtual reality, this is a leg bone that is being planned to be brought up to the upper jaw to reconstruct. And you saw that entire planning happening in 3 seconds. That in a 2-dimensional CAD/CAM running between 3 different surgical teams would be at least an hour-long process, right? And that's what's amazing about using VR. I think we can skip to the next. All right, and very quickly about AR. So AR is something that is, still under development. We are working exclusively with Immersive Touch, but this is something that's great about AR. So I did not want to put a surgical slide because I did not want to scare anybody or not have anybody not enjoy their beers right now. So just imagine this is, again, the same patient who's missing the left upper part of their jaw. In the OR, the patient's face and everything inside the mouth is opened up, right? Like you don't identify most of these things. What we're used to working with is guides, surgical guides, 3D printed resin guides, metal guides and whatnot, that you're trying to make head and tail of where everything is, where everything is supposed to go, right? And that is where AR is absolutely phenomenal. Next, please, on. You are able to now, while doing, whatever procedure you're doing, visualize where something was supposed to go when you are doing reconstruction. Next, please. So in this case, I'm able to visualize where this patient's teeth belong, okay? Based on those, where the teeth belong, where should the bone actually go that we're taking from the leg? And we did all this planning in VR, and now able to visualize using AR intraoperatively is absolutely phenomenal. Next, please. Bone, thank you. All right, thank you.
Give me a second here to transition my slides so that you don't have Verbella over your picture. Second, there we go. All right. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out which question to go with on this one. Sorry. I mean, I guess, how did you get into this specialty? Yeah, and it was like when you started, essentially, obviously going into medicine, what brought you to this specialty in particular?
Since both the speakers spoke about their dad, I'll throw my dad under the bus too. My dad's a reconstructive surgeon back in India. I grew up with this. I was in operating rooms at the age of 12, visualizing all of this. But here's the amazing thing, and Jay and I were just talking about this. Across the world, it's not about US versus India. Reconstruction, and even the way insurance models play out, your insurance essentially covers your life to be saved from cancer, right? What is rehabilitation after that is always questionable, right? Not everybody is privy to that kind of rehabilitation and reconstructive efforts. And that's what I saw quite a bit in India. And that's what intrigued me to take it to the last step. And that's what maxillofacial prosthodontists are, is an overarching specialty that's involved in planning from day one and takes the patients to the end, results of rehabilitation.
I have a question, Matt, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I just was curious. Whoops, I got an echo there.
Go ahead.
Okay. I wanted to ask if you had one wish for anyone considering, and I speak sort of coming from the clinical environment, about whether do you adopt VR, AR in that healthcare life cycle. What would that be? I mean, what are the things that you've just sort of looking back now have reflected on? What would you wish for them if they were going to consider that?
Want to adopt VR, AR into healthcare. So that's a great question, Caroline. Thank you. What I want to say is VR, AR is still something within healthcare that's under development, right? It's a very exciting time to be part of this development process. And I really enjoyed it. That's why I work with this so much. There is going to be a day. So as I'm gonna give an example of what Jay was talking about when we're talking about trauma, right? Let's put that into perspective. So let's say somebody's in an accident. They smashed faces, their facial bones essentially. They come into the OR. Routine rehabilitation process will be there's trauma surgeons who will try to save the patient's life, and that's it, right? The patient does not get seen by reconstructive specialists for a long time after that. For some of these patients, just getting to an end point of surgical treatment can be a decade long of surgeries, right? And that is what is phenomenal about having VR capabilities and AR capabilities today, is that you're shortening that treatment process. As Jay was talking, now you have a patient who came in, as a trauma patient, you have the CT and MRI already collected just, from a trauma surgeon's perspective. In the time the trauma surgeons are stabilizing the patient, the reconstructive surgeons can put everything together. And the reason that I say that this is still something that's under development is the day this will be absolutely phenomenal is the day that we combine VR and AR with our existing or future robotic technologies and dynamic navigation possibilities, because then you don't have to worry about going to anything analog. So right now we still have to take a step back from VR and AR and sometimes go towards like 3D printed resin guides or just SLS metal guides and metal plates just to hold bones together. But we're gonna very soon be in an era where robots are doing most of it real time as we're trying to save a patient. So anybody adopting that in healthcare, I think it's a very exciting time to jump into it.
Yeah, that's really incredible.
As I say, I know we have a question in the room, but we'll get to audience questions shortly. Yeah, please just remember, because she'll be back up here in just a minute to ask other questions. But thank you very much. We're going to go to our last speaker, and then we'll bring all the speakers back for audience questions. And with that, Caroline, if you would like to introduce Michael.
I will. Just getting my camera up. Hi, everybody. So, Michael, actually, if you could come up to the stage. I don't think I saw you here quite yet. Oh, there you are. Sorry. My presentation tool is blocking me. So I would love to just say that I met Michael about 1.5 years ago when I heard about his platform, Augmented, that came out. And just a little bit about him. He's been a physician for over 14 years, and he has experience in consulting and pharma and internal medicine. But we'd love to hear more about this new platform that you have, Michael. And so I'm going to turn it over to you. I'm going to turn my camera off. And I know that there was some issue with the camera before. So if not, you can just go ahead and speak.
Yeah, Karen, thank you very much for the introduction. So as said, I'm Michael. I'm CEO and founder of Augmented, and I'm a medical doctor by training. Been working in hospital, as stated, for a very long time, specialized in internal medicine, was also in the pharmaceutical industry space, and founded Augmented with my partner, Ben. He's also a doctor. And the initial idea was to build a digital health ecosystem, with the standard tools like video chat with doctors, medical records, appointments, prescriptions, all these things. And very shortly, we came to the conclusion that this cannot be everything. So we said, okay, what's important in healthcare? And that is, of course, communication and data. So we said, okay, we built the first Web3 platform for healthcare, which we did. And that platform, Augmented, consists of 4 elements. First of all, it's a patient-centered ecosystem that includes the tools that I just mentioned. Second, a professional platform that offers full-scale hospital information system and tools to connect to the patient. As stated, maybe you know a lot of medical record systems in the United States, like Cerner or Epic. It's not yet there, but we're getting close, and we are integrating very cool tools like Imagine. One of your family members is in hospital. You want to know what's going on, you can connect to the system and you can see what's coming up. You can speak to the doctor directly. Third, we integrated the data marketplace, a blockchain, so a blockchain-based data marketplace. Use Polygon blockchain. We'll also use the blockchain for the system itself. Can come to this a little bit later. We use non-fungible tokens, NFTs, for the data transfer. I can also go into detail a little bit later. And then, for last but not least, we have the first healthcare metaverse, Augmented Avalon. It's an interactive 3D world, just like you see here in Verbella, but with a very strong, or basically the very focused on healthcare. It's built on Unreal Engine. It's running in 2D. It's running in VR. It's running pixel streaming through a browser. And it includes all the players in the healthcare space. You see here actual footage from the metaverse that we built. This is the city of Dubai, virtual healthcare city of Dubai. We incorporate hospitals, universities, doctors, patients, of course, tech companies, other startups, VR startups, for example, that we work with, insurance companies, researchers. So basically everyone involved in the healthcare space. So what is so unique about Augmented? The thing is that we combine basically all possible healthcare, digital health tools in this one ecosystem, as stated with the things that we do. with blockchain technology, non-fungible tokens, but we're also interoperable. So we connect via FHIR to existing healthcare IT because we know that whatever system a hospital, a doctor, a research, a big pharma company uses, they will not just throw everything away because you come around the corner with a new platform, right? So you have to be interoperable. That's what we do. Of course, we have integrated artificial intelligence into every part of the system. Of course, it supports you when you walk around in Avalon, but it also supports you when you are in your medical records, when a doctor fills out. So we work with OpenAI, and we also are an inception partner of NVIDIA. So we work with NVIDIA on that. And yeah, so what we do here is basically open up the data silos. Basically, we enable people not only to get medical services, but to participate and to be incentivized for whatever they do, because that's the idea of Web3, right? And therefore, blockchain technology is so important. All of the parts of the system can and do produce data that can be used by the hospital, that can be used by the patient, that can be used inside the data marketplace. For example, if a pharma company uses the system and puts data into the marketplace, it can use the AI, for example, to crawl for information. I think I don't have to go into the details here because every one of you knows. And we do already have partners, because whatever you do in healthcare, you know, you have to have real use cases. I'm a doctor and I know how important it is. Prove that whatever you do is serving the patient, doing the treatment, is costs whatever. So we partnered with several university hospitals, one of which is the University Hospital of Lausanne in Switzerland, Department for Cardiology, one of the most renowned in the world. We treated the first patient in the metaverse. So we combined ECG, IoT device, and yeah, the university cardiologists treated the patient inside Avalon. There's actually a paper, a peer-reviewed paper on PubMed. You can find it when you Google my name, or when you search for my name, and you can search for this work. And maybe we can post the link later here. So what do we offer inside Avalon? First of all, as the other speakers said, right? So there was a lot already said that I don't have to repeat now, but consultations and therapy, virtual rehabilitation is something that we do. Training and education, very, very important. We have medical gaming aspects. We have a social medical network. So imagine you want to meet people. Up to now, there are cool pages like, patientslikeme.com. I think some of you know the page. It's a very cool platform, but it's still 2D, right? And what you do in Avalon is you meet in a 3-dimensional environment. You can have your avatar, you can stay completely anonymous, but you feel like here we sit together here in this virtual room. It gives you completely different immersion, right? You really are there. You can open up, you can speak about use, right? What just be drug abuse, alcohol abuse, stuff like that, psychotherapy things, mental health issues that especially in the last 2 to 3 years are a big topic, right? I mean, they always were, but now it's even much more pressing. We offer a place for research inside Avalon. And of course, we connect IoT devices, which also one of the speakers said before me, relaxation is a big topic. So what we offer in Avalon is spaces where people can connect to IoT devices, an Apple Watch, an ECG, stress measuring device, right? And you can measure the effect that the environment has on you. Yeah, everything that this system provides is around communication, is about data, is about the integration of everyone involved, that especially includes the patient, but it enables all healthcare providers and stakeholders to communicate and to use all the latest technology. Of course, the metaverse as a buzzword, but VR, artificial intelligence, blockchain technology, this is all integrated. And yeah, so thank you very much. I hope I'll show you a little bit about what we do. Yeah.
Thank you, Michael. And I know that we want to make sure we keep to time here for questions. But one of the things I know that that you and I have talked about is the fact that you are incentivizing people for engagement. And I know there were a lot of terms thrown there, many things about, and I know folks in the medical community know what FHIR is, the FHIR, but that's the set of standards for patient information. But on the note of incentivizing, can you give us a little bit of an idea of why you decided to do that and how that exactly works?
And the thing is, everything that is happening in healthcare up to now is, and when it comes to optimization, when it comes to earning, it's very much focused on the professional side of the game, right? Speak about pharma, hospitals, doctors, and that's fine. It needs to make money. There's no discussion about it. But there are so many fine people out there who have chronic diseases, who are taking care of others, of their neighbors, the peer groups of people that have suffer the same chronic condition, for example. And most of the time, these people work for free. Why should they do that? I mean, imagine you are engaging yourself in a group for multiple sclerosis or drug abuse, and you spend a lot of time and you help a lot of people. You should be incentivized for what you do. And their blockchain technology and all kinds of how to say it, incentives,
right,
can come into play, right, and can be used to motivate and to cherish the work for others, right? So that is why we integrate that mechanism. I think it's very, very important, also an essential part of the Web3 idea, because the Web3 idea includes people and incentivizes them for engaging.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Michael. I know that there's a lot to take in there, and we'll have some opportunity to share some links there, and we'll have some more time for questions later on. But thank you so much, Michael. Appreciate that.
Thank you too. Thank you very much.
Back to you, Matt.
Okay, let's see. Oh yeah, the audio worked again for the first time. So this is the point where we get to questions and answers from the audience. And I know I have questions right in the middle of the room. I'm going to go back to him no, you're giving up? Okay. But anyway, so at this point, I'm going to ask our presenters back up to the stage. There are chairs. Each chair has a microphone. The one thing we're going to ask again, when, there are potentially a whole lot of questions here. So we will ask, we want you guys to talk. We want you guys to answer any questions that come out there, but we also, want to make sure that not spending too much time answering if we can, try to keep yourself to a couple of minutes if possible, depending on the question and the context. So for the audience members, if you have a specific question to ask one of the presenters, Ben, coming forward right here, thanks. Feel free to direct your question at one of the panel members. Feel free to direct your question at the entire panel member. Before we get to the question, I do have one request, and this is going to both the people in the physical space as well as the people in the virtual space. And that is, so in the virtual space in Verbella, you have a raise hand button. So you can raise your hands and Caroline can call you out. How many of the people in this room and in Verbella have tried VR before? Okay, I'm going to reverse that now because that was a lot of the room. How many of you have never tried VR before? Okay, a couple of you. What I normally would say in this situation, if you guys have ever seen the movie Fight Club, tonight's your night. If you've never done it before, we have VR demonstrations here. We have VR demonstrations there. 5 minutes in a VR headset will teach you more than 2 hours of listening to people talking about it, I guarantee. If you've never tried it, please do. That said, our first question is in the physical space. Go ahead.
Hi. I'm wondering where you're at now in this process, or what the landscape looks like for clinical coding, insurance reimbursements, or even how malpractice insurance and insurers have reacted to this kind of technology?
So at the moment, none of the insurance incorporate specific VR AR planning, but unfortunately, it's so challenging within computerized planning in general that insurances don't have an understanding of what A CAD/CAM versus B CAD/CAM, looks like in terms of your planning or implementation. They're very generalized codes at the moment that we end up using for guides or any kind of processes that we're using. It makes no difference whether I was sitting and planning the entire case on a computer with my mouse, or if I'm putting a headset on and planning. From an insurance perspective, it is still the same. Right? I do not believe that there is any difference with malpractice either, because today's date, like whatever workflows exist are still going from VR back to a more analog guide-based system, which already has FDA approval. So of course, they have done an extensive amount of research into the accuracy and the precision of what they're producing, right? And the reproducibility. So these are separate workflows that don't quite affect your malpractice or your outcome right now.
Yeah, I want to add that there is, even though there's no ARVR specific codes, there are procedure specific codes for surgical planning that are able to be utilized. So even if you do utilize an ARVR system for surgical planning, you will get paid for it, regardless of whether it's VR or not ARVR, you're still going to get paid for it.
Then this gentleman right here.
Dr. Sharif, oh my gosh, Sharif Astava. Did I say it right? Okay, thank you.
Robusto. That's how I say it. But Dr. S is my name.
Fair.
So.
All right, Dr. S. I was very moved by what you shared, shockingly so some ways. I was not prepared, but as you were going through it, you briefly, and this is what made my hand shoot up, you briefly brought up things that you talked about the analog world very briefly. You touched on it.
Yeah.
At this point, where are you seeing where the technology, not a limit of the technology, but even as you future think about facial reconstruction, where is the limit of the technology right now where you see there's going to be no replacement for analog, we shall say?
Excellent question. I do not feel that there is a limitation such as that. I think there's biological limitations. We cannot play Mother Nature, but I do not feel technologically we're challenged in any way where we cannot envision a point, right, that we're not limited by the analog world whatsoever. We're in a very transition phase, so to speak, and that's why I keep talking about how we're going from VR and AR back to resin guide-based implementation. AR is going to largely take over that implementation model, especially AR combined with navigation, right? How these two systems will merge is what the next 5 years need to look like. And how robotics is going to merge with the AR is what the next 5 years are really about. But I don't think that will be limited in any particular way.
We have a question. Yeah. Thanks so much. Yes, I did want to call on, is it Jakunge that had a question there in the audience? Please go ahead and unmute yourself and you can ask the question. Oh, maybe he's not able to do that. Anybody else here in the virtual space? Well, I have a question, and that one goes out to Dr. Shrivastava. I wondered if you have if you have been able to, in your work, I wonder how much that might be able to impact the long-term way that the healthcare industry views recovery. And is that a topic that you're talking about with other clinicians at conferences as you look forward? Because it seems to me that it is so acute in your particular specialty.
Absolutely. This is a conversation at every meeting, and this has been a conversation since I want to say the 60s, or I want to say implementation of cancer treatment, which is early 1900s. I think this is a topic that has evolved as our technologies have evolved. So just to give you an example, I still get to see patients who were treated in the 70s and 80s. What life at that moment would have meant for them is if they had cancer and they lost the jaw, they would never have a jaw replaced. Bone reconstruction did not exist back then, where you could take a piece of bone and rebuild somebody's entire face, right? we moved on. We learned how to do those reconstructions. Then we moved on to CAD/CAM planning. And CAD/CAM planning over the last 2.5 decades, in just general, not VR and AR, has basically gone to such an extreme that we have, I want to say, from one year to the other, we're talking about an entirely new workflow, all related to shortening that rehabilitation and recovery time for a patient. I'll give you an example of this, and Jay and I were just talking about this. Again, a cancer patient in general. Back in the 90s, they would likely have received radiation, no possible reconstruction, same thing in the 80s. Now, 2000s, we moved on to where you could, let's say somebody lost half their jaw, you put back that jaw together by taking bone from some other part of the body, and that would have been it for them. Or they received a metal plate that held the remaining half of their jaw, right? And then we moved on to, okay, what comes after the bone? These people need some sort of function, the ability to speak and their swallow and chew. So we want to give them some sort of prosthesis that replicates all the teeth and the bone and the remaining part of the jaw that got lost, right? So that would have been something where the cancer got taken away. Maybe we waited 2 years to do some sort of bone reconstruction. Maybe we waited another 2 years to do some sort of teeth and implant-based reconstruction, right? Maybe the patient was alive. The 5-year survival rate for these patients is only in the low 60s, fortunately. Now we've progressed much further. We're talking about a jaw in a day. A patient comes in with cancer, their cancer gets taken out, the bone gets put in there, the implant go in at the same time, patients walk out looking the same exact way that they came in with cancer, right? So we're always talking about shortening treatment time, and that already exists in the oncology field. And Jay brought up like great points with trauma. Trauma is something that still has a very prolonged road to recovery. And that's where I see like AR and VR and robotic and navigation technologies have the capacity of shortening all of that as well.
All right, just my own personal question for you, Dr. Sfostova, or anyone else really, especially for like with reconstruction, like you're definitely doing a lot of, like prosthetics for like your limbs and everything. Has there been any research for things that are more neurological, for like, say someone has MS or like an autoimmune disease of some kind that can affect, different parts of the body and everything? So has there been research in those areas of, being able to reconstruct or even possibly even reprogram, like your brain or immune system to, counteract some of those autoimmune diseases?
Yep. Phenomenal question. I have to start with that is absolutely not my area of expertise, just my area of interest. But yes, I'm sure you all have seen, documentaries just like I have on bionic arms, right? Like what is functional versus what is purely aesthetic. And I will take an example closer to us. So let's say a patient lost their eye and we give them a prosthetic eye, and you'll take photos, and the prosthesis we create, if you're looking at this patient's photo, you will never make out what's fake, what's real. That's how good prosthetics are in today's age. But if you're looking at this person and talking to them, you can see one eye that is not blinking, right? And that person does not have vision through that eye. And that's where I want to say more than VR and AR, there is AI that is going, there's so much AI research behind this into making sort of functional prosthesis, right? Which is, again, I think with Neuralink and all of those technologies, we are going to enter that space, but I'm not going to talk more into that because that is not my area of research or expertise.
Hi, so what, my question was about, I think specifically for Jay and Dr. S, on using this technology. I think you guys presented really well a lot of the operational benefits for the clinical team, but with a lot of the push to move patients along in what I can imagine is a really time for them on a really major type of project to get them to a better place. Is this something, Jay, in the hospitals you've worked with, or Dr. S and your work yourself, used as part of patient education process, like help them visualize what is the roadmap ahead to, stay engaged and, keep hope in the process?
Yes, that's actually an excellent question. So what we see is younger kids who've put on a VR headset in the past are so curious to put one on and see what their surgery is going to look like, right? Not everybody is in that same space, but patient education has been different. Patient education has also meant like just showing a video of what a surgery looked like to somebody else, right? And it's very patient dependent if they actually want to see what their surgery will look like. But even without VR and AR, there are so many CAD possibilities of just showing what your final outcome will look like. So yes, there are patients who are always intrigued, especially in the prosthetic world. They want to see what they will look like, right? So I'm going to give you a very simple example. If you wanted veneers, right? If there was a possibility of me, without doing anything to you, take your photos and videos and you put on VR headset and you're able to visualize yourself of what your smile will look like after you got veneers, that's the capabilities, right? And that exists today. That absolutely does. And that is something we use very, very frequently.
I want to add communication, collaboration, and connection. Those are the three words that describe the power of AR and VR and the potential of AR, VR in communications throughout the hospital, not just to the patient, but throughout surgical teams, to the PAs, to the nurses. And so that's where I see the biggest potential is communication, collaboration, and creating connection. Communicating in a 3D space for 3D problems, helping people understand a 3D problem in a 2D or 1D setting, which is what's happening today, is a little bit, it could be a little bothersome for some patients. So hospitals are really adopting this for that reason.
I'll take 30 seconds to add to that. 30 seconds to also answer your question. Patient education means a very different thing when you're working with a multi-specialty team, right? And what these capabilities do is be able to bring everybody together, and that's collaboration really, and the connection. Otherwise, you as a patient would go to one surgeon, get some sort of a answer to what your surgery is going to look like. You go to the next surgical team and you have a different sort of answer and different sort of questions now for the first team, but you don't get to see them for another 3 weeks or closer to your surgery date. That is the amazing capability of this collaboration. Is just you can have everybody in a virtual space together answering the same questions, and you're not having to go to the hospital 20 times.
And I'm actually gonna piggyback off that a little bit and throw this a little bit to our virtual guests, just because what you're talking about specifically with regards to the collaboration and Michael's platform that they were talking about, which is a collaborative social platform where people can meet and discuss these types of things, and also just speaking directly about the patient experience in particular, because Jenna with, again, Lighthouse, while it's not necessarily talking about, reconstructive surgery, patient experience in any sort of medical environment, as someone who was in a hospital yesterday, not always the most comfortable environment in the world. So Michael and Jenna, I just wanted to see if you guys wanted to chime in on this a little bit.
Either one of you can go ahead. Go ahead, Michael.
Yeah, Jenna, maybe you want to start?
Sure. So I believe that the question was more about patient experience and patient-driven experiences. Making sure that the quality of what the patient is getting is the same as or is better than expected. That's a lot of what Lighthouse does. Lighthouse XR. Again, we have this platform, but we also one of the reasons that let me actually turn my camera on. There we go.
Awesome.
All right, there we are. Yeah, so again, as we were talking about patient-driven experiences, the quality of the patient experience, that's something that we really specialize in. So when we're working with clinicians and when we're working with doctors and we're working with physicians that would like to use our expertise, that's the reason that they come to us. And that's actually why we love working with these doctors, because we love the solutions that they have. And we know that maybe that expertise in understanding what the true clinical value of this, that's not our ball. That's not our field, But what we know is we know how to bring it together and make sure that the patient is having a great experience, that the patient, understands what they're getting, that the clinical value is valid, but that at the same time, it is still an enjoyable experience, and particularly for individuals that are going through substance use disorder or addiction, that's really important. We need to make sure that they are enjoying themselves and they want to put the headset on, that they are motivated to come back every single day and put that headset on because it's an enjoyable experience. And that it's something that they really, really want to do. It maybe they think it plays like a video game, but it has so much clinical value that is evidence-based, going with certain therapeutic programs. Again, so.
That's great. That's great, Jenna.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think that means so much. And on that same note, Michael, love to hear your perspective about that.
So yeah, what I would love to emphasize is, and always when I speak about platform and especially about the topic of the metaverse, do not replace the real world medicine, right? So what you just saw, the craniofacial surgery, I mean, this is art, right? Because you change someone's life, you save someone's life, and it's a life-changing procedure. If you reconstruct the face that you do, you cannot do that in the virtual environment. But what you can use the virtual environment for is as an additional service layer. That is what we do in the virtual reality. We give, of course, doctors, our colleagues, tools to improve treatments or to train things. But on the other side, give patients a tool that reduces their fear of procedures, because you make them understand how a procedure works. How is this skull, the bone on the skull reconstructed? I mean, if you as a doctor, and I think you will say that it's right when you speak to a patient and you tell them about the surgery that is coming up, then the patient looks at you and he says, yeah, I understand. But let's be honest, most of them do not understand. First of all, they're in a big distress. So anyway, they don't recognize the things they would recognize them if they were not in stress and if it was not about their life and about their surgery. Second of all, it's difficult to understand these structures on a piece of paper, for example. And there, VR, AR are wonderful tools. The metaverse, all these things are wonderful tools to help people understand the impact of real-world medicine. And it takes away a lot of pressure from doctors, for example, in hospital and in the emergency room, or when a patient comes and he already had the chance to learn about the procedure at home in the safe environment, in a three-dimensional environment, right? So I think that is what I would like to say, so that this is a wonderful combination of real-world healthcare and virtual healthcare.
All right, I got another question.
Fabulous.
Sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay, is it okay if I ask 2 short questions? Okay, first question for the physical panelist. When doing surgery, how are you tracking the, I guess, person's body when you're performing the surgery? Way. Second question. Is there, and this is for everyone on the other panelists, is there a way to bring immersive experiences, medical experiences, patient experiences to people without a headset? Are there any plans for that?
So patient tracking is mainly done, I mean, there's several ways. There's QR codes, there's optical tracking. And so those are just 2 ways that are being used in the market today. And so both have their pros and cons for sure. QR codes don't require extensive hardware. They don't require expensive optical towers. But then on the flip side, the optical trackers have more precision, so that could benefit the surgery if it requires sub-millimeter accuracy.
Yeah, so usually you will require some sort of a triangulation, the patient's body, the provider, whatever they're looking at, and then whatever the optical tower may be. This can be fiduciary markers or optical markers.
So without headsets, what type of experiences are you, I mean, right now, mobile phones are extremely advanced, amazing pieces of technology. So if it's not on a headset, it might as well be on a advanced iPhone or a Samsung device or Android device.
answer to that. So there are different companies, and I'm not sure their application is the same as when you put on a headset, but there are different companies coming up with essentially a screen where you have a view that is more holographic and off the screen, so you have a three-dimensional view. Sony came up with something like that, where you're just literally viewing the screen, and they have a camera right in the middle. It's an optical sort of, I don't know what sort of sensor. You just see the image off the screen. That is still intuitive, but not the same. It's not as interactive as you putting a headset on.
Actually, I want to throw this to Lighthouse again and Michael, just because I know you guys have your different platforms. Are they available only in headset, or are they also available non-headset? 2D.
So our platform is definitely usable in 2D and on VR, because the problem with VR is, I mean, VR is beautiful, but everyone who used it more than 1 hour knows that you get dizzy. The headsets still are very bulky. You get a headache, and a lot of people suffer from motion sickness. So it always makes sense to combine this technology, because some things are much better perceivable in VR, while when you walk around and are searching for a service, it's maybe better to stay in 2D. So we support both ways, of course.
And on the Lighthouse XR side, we are primarily working in VR right now. We have a lot of experience trying to mitigate things like Michael was talking about, motion sickness, dizziness. We have sort of systems in place with a lot of the videos that we create and with a lot of the content, the way that you navigate the content. We're working with, again, our programmers and just our knowledge of VR design to make this as easy and as pleasant as possible, but also so it can be challenging for some of those individuals that may want a little bit more of a challenge. We have gotten a lot of requests for creating a 2D platform, but right now with the way that we're creating it, I think that's on our roadmap more for 2024, 2025, because again, a lot of the draw of what we're doing is creating this virtual reality platform for patients that are in treatment at the time.
And one thing on that, I was just going to say, Jenna, of what you just said, is that I'm sure that the immersion factor is partially what brings impact to some of these patients who are going through these treatments. Would you say that would be the case, that it lends itself well to that?
Yes.
Yeah.
VR is an excellent use case for something like augmenting treatment for individuals with mental health issues or substance use disorder. Again, like addictions. Again, it's keeping them interested, keeping them wanting to come back. Really just hyping up the fact that they're there. They're learning. They get to treat chronic issues or chronic pain, and then acute pain as well as they're in there. We get to give them the short-term rewards and acute rewards and acute coping mechanisms while they're in there, and they get to be out of the four walls that they're in. They get to, because again, a lot of these treatment centers, I don't know if anybody in the room has been to some of these treatment centers. I'm not going to say they're the most exciting places. And I'm also going to say that when you're there, maybe one of our patients said, yeah, this is way better than going to the library, or this is way better than just playing ping pong again for like the 14th day in a row. So what we're giving them is something really valuable that is centered around their treatment.
Thank you. That's awesome. Back to you, Matt.
Yeah, and I know we have a question from AWE.live right now. So Tom, if you want to relay that.
Yeah, this is from Francis Wong, who attends pretty much every program, which is great. He asks, or they ask, can or will immersive technology be allowed to record surgery or operations? And if so, will it help doctors review the operation effectively and useful?
As a surgeon, I want to say absolutely hope so.
Short answer is yes. Part of our solution is the pre-surgical planning is effective in VR and 3D. And the way we show how effective it is by recording how the surgeries go. And a lot of times those recordings are played back in the event of whether it goes, I mean, most of the time it goes really well when there's planning involved. But let's say you're not planning, there could be some complications that the video recording could record. And eventually, there's a ton of video analytics companies that are popping up that are great. And so we could feed the data that we're collecting in augmented reality to these video companies that can then analyze the data and find out if the surgery could have gone better, or maybe less blood loss or less anesthesia. They can kind of analyze the video footage.
To add to that, our current limitations are more related to hardware, so headset, and how you record versus what you view with. Like, and I'm specifically talking about augmented reality. I have, of all the headsets I've tried, and where our field of vision is in surgery versus what the cameras record tend to be different things. Once we're just past that loop, absolutely, we should be recording it. And the thing to really record, blood loss and everything, are things we record analog anyway. But what is the discrepancy going from VR to AR, right? That is exactly, what we need to be recording now, so that we can learn and improve our technologies.
I'm going to throw a quick comment that I just find entertaining here, just in the whole virtual production, is the fact that you guys are both looking over at Tom and answering Tom, but also that works because you're actually looking directly into the cameras that are mounted there, which is where the all live people are watching you. So we had a question here. And just for clarification, we're over time. We usually end the program around 7:45, but I know there's a couple more questions in the room. I'm going to let them keep going. Same thing with Caroline or All.Live. If there are more questions, we're going to let them keep going, but I do want to make sure that the people who want to try and demonstration do get a chance to do that as well. So I'm going to try and cut it off in the next few minutes. But question here, there was another one here, and then one more up there. Yeah.
Hello. Okay. My question is for Lighthouse. Can you tell us a little bit more about, like, for basic newbies, what the person in treatment is doing when they go into the world?
Sure, I can definitely do that. So at Lighthouse XR, our platform right now is, so it's called the Retreat. And what the individual gets when they walk in is a custom built platform based on the therapist or clinician's sort of plan that they have for the patient or for the program itself. And what they do is they kind of start on session-based adventures or session-based activities that have not only a video training content where you are getting some of these really, really important lessons that the therapist really wants to teach these individuals in group therapy, or a lot of the points that they're trying to make outside of therapy, when they say, hey, well, you're in a group session, we've just talked about something. We've just talked about this really important therapeutic topic. I'd like you to take this week, go home, really, really understand this and really, practice it, do a worksheet. And that's what we're replacing here. So they go through, they listen to the therapist, they can hear that session again and again. Certain patients that have gone through our treatment have said, hey, I didn't understand it in group therapy, or I was too shy to speak up. And so, having these 360 videos with a professional therapist teach you this content, they really like that. We also have some mini games that are specifically designed around certain educational concepts. We have meditation videos and grounding activities that are specifically designed within the context of this TST, which is like a CBT-based therapy that they can go into at any time. So patients can go into it for session-based content, but then they can also come into it and revisit any of the topics at any time. Does that answer your question?
Thank you very much, Jenna. We have 2 more questions in the physical room. Go ahead.
Real quickly, I'm hearing a lot of promise and hype from the position of the surgeon or the practitioner. What I'm not hearing a lot of is the protection of the patient. So where is, because I love the idea of, yes, recording these surgeries and having these things available. Dr. S, you even said before we started, please do not take photos of my patients. If I was sitting here and I was one of those patients, I would have been horrified, frankly, about that. Where are we going to find, again, the promise of the, especially when AI is brought into this, where we can now, again, use AI to learn and better do these things, but also at the same time protecting the right of the patient and their privacy in all of this?
So I am very sure HIPAA rules are going to continue expanding, right, as far as patient protection is concerned. Any patient's photographs that you saw today are only there because they gave permission to speak about them, right? You will never see a patient's photograph or a video. When we're talking about taking video recordings of surgery, that is something that we still do without using VR, AR capabilities, and that's educational, right? That's essentially, if you think about quality control and improving your processes, we're still recording things in one way or the other, right? When we want to see outcomes as to what's baseline, everything is recorded. We have photographs and CT scans and digital scans of everything, even today, right? I do not believe that necessarily moving into the VR and AR space is going to change that drastically. Bring AI, that is a totally different thing. How much of this world that we try to protect within the hospital files, I'm not allowed to take my hospital laptop out of the hospital, right? How much do we actually protect things in the physical space? And once they make it on the web, do we have any control over it? I don't truly have an answer for that, right? And that's where we expect people who are creating policies around, you know, AI related protection will have some meaningful contribution.
So Caroline was actually going to jump in and say something really quickly. I was going to say the same thing, basically. The one thing I'll say is that technology perspective, from the people who are developing this technology, very different from what has started with web. Web was very much a get stuff out there and see what works. VR and AR technology has been evolving over the last couple of years very heavily, following things like the social media and privacy issues. This is a huge concern. It's something that all the people, myself in technology, Patrick's in the technology, we both work in this technology, Caroline's in the technology. She was going to bring up XRSI, which is an organization that is completely concerned with safety, privacy, data protection, all of these initiatives. It is something that I will say at the very foundation of the technology, from the developers who are building this from the ground up, we are thinking about it. We are concerned about it. So it is one of the things that I will say at the very base level of the technology, we're building those protections in. It's not an afterthought this time. And then I know Patrick had a question, and we're running way over time, but that's okay.
This is really quick, I think. Well, I don't know. It's a big topic, but last year the buzzword was metaverse, which, you know, we all saw the hype around that. This year, I'd say the buzzword is probably AI, but I think AI actually, in a lot of ways, has more legs and is kind of came out of nowhere. If anyone's used ChatGPT, you know. I'm just curious what specifically you see. I mean, AR has always used some form of AI in terms of computer vision, but where do you specifically see AI? Are you using it already? And where do you see it going, specifically married with AR and or VR? And that's for any of the panelists, I guess.
I'm going to let this go to the virtual panelists first.
So I think AI is absolutely stunning. You know, 1 year ago, you know, I was thinking, okay, how to integrate AI, whom to work with, and how can it look like, and is it real AI? Isn't it most likely machine learning and not very convincing? And then end of November 2022, there was ChatGPT, and it's just, I think it blew everyone's mind. I think now we really see the possibilities that this is bringing up, and I think this will be a major part, of course, in healthcare, of secure. When we speak about patient safety, I can tell you something. I've tried this from a doctor's point of view several times. I spoke to ChatGPT, if I may say so, and I gave it information about patients that I saw in the emergency room. And I tell you, this AI is already better than a doctor that hasn't had sleep. When it comes to standard operating procedures and when it comes to following medical guidelines. So I think it will have a huge impact, I think bigger than anything that has come before. Like Jensen Wang from NVIDIA said, it's like a little bit like the iPhone moment in this kind of technology that we just had. And imagine, we are still at the very beginning. It started 4 months ago, okay? And this is growing exponentially. Let's imagine where we will be in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years with that technology. And I think it will have an impact on all aspects of healthcare: treatment, research, patient safety, happiness, whatever you want to speak about, finding new medications, doing medical trials. I mean, let's speak about trials. As I said, I was in the pharmaceutical space, and I saw how much problems there is with information, with the data, and this AI will clutter out all these issues, at least up to a certain point. I mean, it will not replace humans as a total, at least I don't hope so, but it will have a huge impact.
And if I can, I'd like to just add to the mention of XRSI. So for those who don't know, XRSI was formed by Kavya Perlman, and it's a really great organization. I highly encourage you to look it up. I shared it in the public chat. They are doing work across the world globally. And I know actually Michael has also worked with XRSI in the AMETIS journey, but they have just started to make a much bigger impact in the organizations and the countries and the standards. So they are really at the forefront of, and their sole mission really is to enable standardization of security and privacy throughout the XR ecosystem. And they've got a ton of different partners across academia, government, industry. So they're not the only ones, but as Matt said, it's not just starting now. This work has been going on for several years, and it does seem to be a little challenging to keep up with the AI race. And I know there'll be some healthy discussion in events to come about where people sit with AI, because I certainly have some things about it that that I think all of us do. Some terror there, and for good reason. So I just wanted to share that bit, and I know, Matt, we're way over time here, so I'll turn it right back to you.
Yeah, and there were a couple answers here on the AI question, and then we'll wrap things up.
AI is only as good as the data sets that you put into the system. ChatGPT is working on data prior to 2021, I believe. So it doesn't even have real-time present information. Eventually it will have that. I mean, it'll be real up to date. And AI is amazing. It can create art. It can create movies eventually. You'll have personalized movies that are built just for you. There's going to be art, just pictures of you that never existed, but that'll exist because AI can create that, right? So from the medical perspective, I mean, there's a lot of potential, and the data that Immersive Touch has, or our platform has through VR and surgeon interaction with our data. VR is an amazing tool for that. It's able to collect a lot of data. It's able to gather that data and then build surgical intelligence that the future surgeons and residents will be able to benefit from.
I'm sure there's going to be a component of predictive AI into this, which is really going to be applicable to our surgical planning per se, right? And that is, of course, going to enter into the VR AR space. Already does exist in two-dimensional, most diagnostic medical softwares that we have at the moment, quite advanced levels. And then I'm very sure there's going to be a generative AI process that can augment our current AR processes, just as simple as when we're designing a guide or bending a plate to fix somebody's fracture, how much will generative AI be able to inform us, hey, the plate bends this way, directly feed it to a robot, you completely eliminate the analog steps there.
And that requires true three-dimensional information, which AI will be able to gather and train.
All right. First of all, let me just say, second. So thank you to our presenters. Thank you to Caroline in the virtual space, our virtual presenters, our sponsors, our partners, everyone who's helped this happen. I'm just going to throw a quick question out there. Just show of hands in the room. Does anyone know what the GPT in ChatGPT stands for? No? Generative pre-trained. Which, to what you were talking about, all the data, all the information that GPT has is from data that it was pre-trained with, which is previous. No? They're collecting all the data right now, but all the stuff that we're dealing with right now on the web interface for ChatGPT is the pre-trained data that I believe you're correct was pre-2021. They're collecting. I know. So apparently it is live updating at this point, although I'm curious. All right, so with that, we're going to wrap the event really quick because we're way over time. We do want to allow for the networking to take place after the event. Again, people to be able to try some of these demonstrations that are in the physical space. Again, Next Evolution, this whole event is a 501c3 charity. This is a charitable program. We would love any sponsorship or donations people can direct our way. Again, see me if you have anything. See Matt at the front desk as well. Either of us can answer questions there. Next month, it looks like our topic is going to be space. So we are going to be talking about literally like outer space, as in space. As an industry topic, well, in June we'll be talking about e-commerce. In July, we're going to not actually even do a stage program. We're just going to do a social event and have a little fun. But with that, we hope you guys will make it back. Check out the website. These are all of our socials, all of AWE's socials. I will pop the slide up. Caroline, did you want to say any last thoughts and then goodbye?
No, we're already so over time, but just that I'm really hopeful and excited about what the future holds, and I really appreciate everyone here, and thank you for participating. This is awesome.
All right, thank you very much. And the last thing I will say is we do have, again, the NFTs. If you haven't collected it yet, there is an actual printed QR code in the space. I believe it's in the virtual space. If it's not, let me know, and Tom can figure out how to put it up there. But again, thank you, everybody. Please have some drinks, have some more of our snacks, and try the VR headset, VR demonstrations if you haven't done that yet. Thanks. We hope to see you all next month. Have a great night.
And Matt, if you want to mute us here in the room, that would be great. Thank you, everyone, and really appreciate it. Feel free to stick around if you want to ask any questions of either Jenna or Michael if they don't have to take off. I know it's pretty late night for some, but thank you so much.